Welcome, unprofessionals, to another exciting episode of Unprofessional Development. Today we sit down with Shane of the Ed Podcast. So we have ourselves a little Ed podcast where we talk mostly about not podcasting. We're just going to waste a lot of time ranting about movies. So that'll be fun. Today's episode is brought to you by Starbucks gift cards. Starbucks gift cards, taking up space in your wallet since 1991. Please take this moment to like or subscribe or give us 5 stars and definitely leave a comment telling everybody how funny we think we are and sharing us around to anyone who you know who also loves education. For more links, please check our show notes.
It's okay to be unprofessional. This is a teacher confessional. Real teachers, the stories are real. You gotta laugh with Tedisco and Meal. Nice.
Welcome, unprofessionals, to another exciting episode of Unprofessional Development. I'm Tedisco.
And I'm Mealy. And today we've got Shane, another teacher podcaster. I know you thought we were the only teacher podcasters, but there's literally, I don't know, hundreds of them, maybe thousands at this point. I heard a statistic.
Dozens of us. Dozens, I say.
I heard a statistic that because of COVID-19 that 82,000 new podcasts have been started this week.
Wow.
Yeah, there's just people like, I don't know, I've watched Netflix, I've drawn chalk on my driveway, I've baked bread, I know, I've got a phone, I'll make a podcast.
I mean, if you're going to spend weeks talking to yourself, you might as well try to make money on it.
Record it, right. Yeah, so
because everyone knows podcasting, that's where the money is.
That's right. Look at us dual-wielding cash with our few careers.
I know.
Absolutely.
Yes, we met Shane at the Podcaster Island, where we all fly our private jets to.
Exactly right.
Yes, and we hunt the poor.
We do. Yes. Stupid person with no podcast. Boom.
How you doing today, Shane?
Well, that took a really dark turn, I'm going to say, but no.
All right. So let's kind of bring it back to some semblance of reality. So Shane, kind of walk us through. So you're a teacher, you're a podcaster.
Yeah.
So we want to kind of walk through, like, you went from being a student at some point to being a grown-up, or at least being called a grown-up by other people, and to being a teacher, and then to a podcaster. So kind of walk us through some of the highlights of that life journey.
Okay, that's good. I mean, I was listening to your podcast, so I was kind of running this through my mind the day. Okay, so a few years ago, I kind of had this realization, and I had to call my mom. And I called my mom, I'm like, Mom, in high school, was I a bit of an astronaut? And, my mom's very supportive and everything else, but she was just like, yeah. Like, this is like huge revelation for me. So, I mean, I school was pretty straightforward for me. I had, a stable household. I, played the academic thing really well. Didn't have too many hiccups along the way. Other than like social stuff, because I was like, musical theater and
nice,
musical theater nerd and Star Wars nerd. I mean, I did everything I could to put a target on my back. So
right.
I feel
there was those struggles, but even that wasn't anything too traumatic. So did well in school. I really didn't realize until I was thinking of this yesterday. I was like, I kind of missed out on a lot of stuff. I really wasn't paying attention in high school to what was going on around me other than just like do the work. And so, but I don't know. I think maybe that's probably a lot of teenagers at that point. But,
oh yeah. They're like aware of certain stuff inside themselves, but they're not really aware of how they're interacting with their environment or how their actions are affecting other people, even like how their life is going. Like, oh, I made that choice, but I didn't really think about it very much,
Yeah. So I was just typical, I guess, dumb teenage boy, but thankfully, the gods have spared me from all my stupid decisions, and here I am, alive and well. So it's good. But in terms of, post-secondary, I actually, since I was a kid, I wanted to be a computer programmer, mostly because I wanted to make games, and more to the point, I wanted to like write games. But I wasn't smart enough to kind of figure out what that actually meant. Like, I didn't actually want to be a computer programmer.
Right.
But I nonetheless went into computer science and university, took a year and a half of that and realized like, wow, like I know you're not supposed to say you're bad at fill in subject matter, but I was bad at computer science, at coding. I was terrible. I was busting my butt. I was working 5 times harder than the guy next to me and getting about 1/10 of the work done.
Oh, wow.
And I finally was like, I think I'm more of a creative kind of person. Like, not that coding's not creative, but, more of the like writing and that kind of thing. So, I decided I'd, kind of go with English because I was really liking that a lot. So I got my degree in English and drama.
Uh-huh.
And it was funny because I called my parents and told them when I was going to switch from computer science to English. It was kind of like this coming out moment to my parents. I was like, my family is all science. My sister's got a degree in genetics. And, my dad's an engineer. My grandpa's an engineer. My uncle's an engineer, all this kind of stuff.
And you have to sit your parents down and just say, Mom, Dad, I'm creative.
I'm good. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to get a degree. But you know what? Just like the cliche scene, the parents are just like, well, what took you so long? So that's literally what my dad said. So
English and drama?
English major, drama minor. Yeah.
Okay.
So you want it to be 2 kinds of waiters.
Right.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because I got my degree.
Barista too.
Yeah. I have been a barista.
Nice.
Same. That's what you do when you're a dramatic English person.
Right.
Yes.
That's exactly right. And you have a heartfelt blog that nobody reads. But no, so I finished my degree and then just was like, well, the job market seems a little sparse for us English and drama folks. So I like to say like, oh, I really wanted to be a teacher when I was a kid, and it never really crossed my mind until I got my degree. And like, oh, I'll try this education thing because I've always enjoyed being with people younger than me, if that makes sense. Like I've always enjoyed even when I was a kid, I would play with the neighbors' kids that were a little bit younger than me because I just liked playing with them.
Right.
I mean, that's a problem I have now. I still like playing, except, my body can't keep up anymore with the kids. But, so I thought, hey, I'm going to try this ed degree thing. And, turns out it was a great fit. And now I am a teacher. I've been doing it for 15 years.
Oh, wow. And you teach what level students?
I teach mostly junior high and a little bit of senior high.
Okay. And you teach English? Do you teach drama at all, or do you just teach English?
I teach junior high drama. I don't teach English anymore. I switched out of English a couple of years ago, actually.
Okay.
So I'm now doing computers class, ironically. But I keep it pretty much on the creative side. But do computers and film studies. That's my big passion. And so if someone named Brad Schreffler is listening right now, he's taking a drink because he always makes fun of me for mentioning film studies in every single podcast I do. So,
well, I mean, one of my favorite classes I took in high school was History of American Cinema, they called it, which basically we just watched movies for like 90% of the class and then discussed them for about 10% of the class, or maybe 80-20 or whatever, and watched Citizen Kane and Bullet and
classics.
I feel like so intellectual because I know that Pee Wee Herman's Great Adventure is actually a complete ripoff of an Italian movie, The Bicycle, which we watched. I don't know if you've seen
Bicycle
that
Thief.
or not. What's Bicycle Thief? Yes.
The Bicycle Thief, yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And season 2 of Master of None, I want to say the first episode is
they do
Ansari,
that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, running after a guy who stole his cell phone. And it's all done in black and white like The Bicycle Thief. Bicycle Thief
that's
is a great
cool.
movie. Yeah. I love cinema too. Yeah, I took my humanities class. I wrote a really great essay on Citizen Kane. It's the reason I bought it.
Nice.
And I took a Shakespeare and film class, which, I mean, for most people is 2 versions of hell. But I loved it.
I had in my senior year, English teacher, we watched, a Western called My Name is Nobody because my, English teacher had done his master's thesis on spaghetti westerns, which were basically just Greek tragedies and comedies that were just kind of set the Western frontier and stuff like that. So there's a lot of that stuff. So
Which also goes back to Kurosawa and the samurai films. What kind of films, Shane? What kind of films do you usually review in class, or what things do you bring to the table there?
Well, I have 3 courses. I do Film 8, Film 9, and then I do high school film studies. So Film 8 is just like I try and show them a little bit of everything. So the only rule is we always start with Jaws.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
Because Jaws is awesome. And it's a historical touchstone. Like it's an important moment in cinema. And so we do that. Some foreign films. We watch Hero. And we watch this German film called North Face, which is the best mountain climbing movie ever. Fight me. It is so good.
Okay.
And were they wearing North Face jackets as they climbed?
All the time. It's basically just an extended ad for North Face. Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, they get to the top, find a big chest full of North Face gear. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a good. I'm now watching that movie.
That is the top of the mountain.
See, I'm old. I'm old. I just watched the Benetton movie, which was really cool. They just basically just dancing around in shirts with big stripes on them.
Awesome. No, so we watched all these sorts of films. We watched some animation. I watched like this weird French animated movie. It's one of my favorite movies that I found just last year called Town Called Panic. Which you've seen it? Oh my gosh, yeah. It's so good.
Oh yeah, Disco can nerd out on movies forever.
Oh, right on. Yes. Okay, we better watch it.
I've met few people who've seen more movies than me.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we do that sort of overview of grade 8, grade 9. We actually focus on something. We do music videos. We actually make movies in each of these courses too.
Oh, that's cool.
So grade 9 is sort of getting away from narrative film, and we do music videos. So we watch a ton of music videos. But we do also watch some we have like one unit in particular that's kind of core to the course. We watch 4 films that are, I call them like weird movies. They have a different kind of style. So we watch Upstream Color. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
Mm-mm.
That's, Shane Carruth. He did Primer as well. Totally really worth watching. We watch, Time Bandits. Jerry Gilliam's Time Bandits. Yeah. So we watch just a whole pile of different kind of films in grade 9, but yeah, focusing on just different ways of telling stories and actually like literally just different kinds of shooting. Like, I encourage the kids, like, don't you dare give me just a plain Jane music video. I want something where you're doing something weird. Throw the camera underwater, or put it upside down, invert the colors, do something weird.
That's why I love Breaking Bad, because he finds places to put the camera that you would never ever think of. That's one of the reasons I can watch Breaking Bad with no sound, because it's just beautifully shot.
Oh, it's so good.
Go ahead.
Anyway, that's it. So then the 10, 11, 12s are combined into one course. And I would say like when we're in grade 8, it's like 70% watching films, 30% making films. By the time I get to high school, it's like 80% production, 20% study.
Wow.
Grade 8, we watch like 14 or 15 films. In high school, we watch like somewhere around 6 or 8, something like that. Not as many, just because we want to focus on, they get really into production, and it's actually combined with another course. So my kids in my class do writing, directing, producing, and then the other course does editing, sound. They do like all the technical stuff.
Are you at a school that is like this big art school or film school, or is this just a regular? I think. Are you from Canada? I'm not sure. Are you from Canada?
I'm from Canada. Yeah.
Okay, I thought I heard a few little words in there that I can't remember what they said. They kind of.
What's this all about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that like but anyway, is your school special? I mean, all schools are special.
Yeah, it's special. Sure, it's special.
But it's not like, this is not like we in our, I know there's some like New York School of the Arts or something like that. It's not a, school like that.
I guess the question is like, was it set up when you got there, or like, is this a curriculum program you created?
There was some pre-existing curriculum, but the program wasn't at our school. So about 2-3 years into when I started teaching there, I went to some PD, and there was a guy who, at another school in our city does this program, and he was doing his little session on it. And I just, ran into our principal in the hallway between sessions. And I was like, hey, we should start a film study program. And he's like, sure, give me a proposal. So I wrote him like one page, and he looked at it and he's like, yeah, that's good. Cool. Go for it.
Wow.
And that was it. So then we started. Yeah. So now we've got this program. I
want to live in your world.
Well, I tell you, there's been some crazy good luck too. Like a few years back, I was at school early. It was in the summer, right before school started, just kind of getting things ready. I'm in the office. They just had done their budget stuff, and we got a whole bunch of money and we have to spend it by Friday. And this is Wednesday.
Oh my.
And I was just standing in the office.
It's an interesting problem to have.
Yes.
Well, yeah. But we don't know what to use it for. And they're just like, Shane, do you have anything you could buy? I'm like, yes, I do. So we got really lucky and got all sorts of great gear for our high school kids. So we send them out with like lights, camera, audio gear, boom mics, the whole bit.
That's awesome.
Oh man, they knock it out of the park every year. It's amazing. I'm very proud of that. That's my baby.
Yeah. I'm really curious about this. So, in high school, I also had a class where I had to make a film. Mm-hmm. And actually I helped my friend who was a year older than me make his. And then the next year I made, my own. When I helped my friend make his, it had to be a music video.
Mm-hmm.
So they did, Adam Song by Blink-182, which is about a kid struggling with depression and taking his life. And then the next year, we did a music video using a song by Primus, and it was just a guy being followed by a monster who's going around murdering people.
Oh, wow. Nice. Primus is amazing.
Right. And so we got in trouble for the suicide one, but not the murder one. And so when you have kids doing creative stuff like this, I mean, they have creative outpourings, and kids are feeling and going through a lot of stuff at that age. How do you sort of, what do you do to sort of walk the line between, like, trying not to censor them, but also trying to make sure things stay PG?
I know, I was thinking, a lot of times we have our funny stories at the end. Like, feel free to go either, like, meaningful or just, like, unbelievable. I can't believe that, you know, this kid, like, basically bought a porno to me or whatever, or lit his house on fire or whatever it is. Like, I know you must have so many good stories about some of the movies that are just, our listeners will enjoy hearing things that were like, maybe make them cry, make them laugh. Okay, Shane?
Oh gosh. Oh man, you put me on the spot. Well, okay, like the serious side of first, like kind of, to answer the first question, Christopher, like, you talked about like violence, like we talk about violence head on. Like one of the things we do is like, literally we'll, ask them a question. Like we'll just do like a quick question on Classroom, and they'll answer that. And then they'll take that and turn it into a slideshow. And then we'll sort of go through that the next day. And I'll usually put each little comment from the kids on its own slide next to like an image of like, I don't know, like, Scarface or, you know, something real horribly violent. And okay, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
So yeah, we kind of talk about head on, like in a very sort of direct kind of way. And then we just, you know, at the start of the year too, we go through some basic standards. Sometimes we'll talk about, the Hays Code. I don't know if you're familiar with, but how that worked and sort of, you know, what we should keep, what you would take away. I should also add, we're a Christian school, so we have to walk a pretty fine line as well.
Oh yeah.
But nonetheless, I mean, I'm a fan of cinema, not Christian cinema. So don't get me started on that.
I'm a Christian as well. And there's a lot of garbage out there. It's
so,
you know,
much.
There's people that try to like worm their way into certain arts by like saying, well, if I say that I'm a Christian, then they'll let me in. And that kind of, as opposed to being an artist who happens to be a Christian. And sometimes they put the cart before the horse. But I got weird stories about that one too. But, so yeah, violence, that's kind of how we approached it. I mean, we have violence in films. Like we did, one year we did action movies. And I think we got like 8 or 9 finished films for our festival at the end of the year. And I don't think there was one film where someone didn't get shot in the head. Right.
Like just every single one. So there's just times where we're just like, but
you get to give it an option, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and we do like one of the labs we do during the course is we do a damage makeup. So they can do some really nice, like bullet hole wounds and stuff like, but I mean, cool. The thing is they learn, they know to be sensitive. And, the thing is where I'm always like, consider your audience, right? Think about your audience. What's it going to be like for them? Imagine yourself in a theater sitting next to your grandma saying, look at this thing that I made, right? So they're pretty smart about it. In the 8 years that I've been doing the high school festival, we've had one film that we had to reject.
Okay.
Because it was ridiculous. Like it was this group and they wanted to do a film about drugs and drug dealing.
Okay.
And the other teacher from the other course, he was working with them a little bit more than me, but he was like, you cannot reference drugs like that in the film. They're like, okay, we'll make the film, but we'll call it Chocolate.
Nice.
So and the filming, the quality of this film was it was garbage. It was so bad. And I mean, I find the good in all my kids' films. They'll sit there and be like, oh, I hate this. This is so bad. I'm like, no, wait, look at this. Look what you did here. This is amazing. And this is great. This film was so bad, like so bad. They had, the kid orders, like the whole film was shot in their driveway and in the garage. That's it.
Wow.
And it's some guy ordering chocolate. And he gets this giant like pack of like white powder with the word chocolate on it. And he like goes like face deep in this thing, snorting up all this stuff. He's like, oh, chocolate. Like, oh my gosh. And then some guy shows up and like blows him away with a shotgun, which was actually a leaf blower. Like,
oh, nice.
It was so bad.
I mean, so many questions that I don't want answered.
Wow.
Well, to be fair, I mean, we kind of had to, I met with the other teacher. We talked about, we're like, we can't show this. And we told the kids and they were actually relieved. They're like, oh, phew, good. Like they knew it was bad. So, I mean, there's that. We weren't just like breaking their hearts. They were like, oh, good. Thank you. Yeah. So they, yeah.
Hear that, kids? Don't do chocolate.
Oh. Don't do chocolate. Well, it's bad for you. Yeah, a lot of sugar and fat in that stuff. Yeah.
And so, but I imagine your job must be so much fun then. Like, how much how much of it is just fun and how much of it does it end up getting into like, oh boy, I've got to explain like this thing again, or the frustration that we all have with teachers where it's like, for those of you that aren't teaching and those of you that are, and if you've ever had kids, things that should take a minute to explain and a minute to master will take an entire class period all of a sudden. And imagine when you first started doing it, it's like, oh, I'll just show them this and I'll explain this. Like, what were the things that you, what do they always struggle with?
What do they always struggle with? Oh gosh. Depends on what class you're talking about, but I guess like we'll start at the bottom, I guess, where we're, and, you know, when I'm working with my grade 8s, the hardest thing I think, honestly, is film language, like just trying to articulate to the students what that actually meant and how a scene goes together. And so, I mean, I spend way more time than I used to at the outset. I used to be just like, hey, there's a close up, there's a medium close up, there's a long shot. Like,
right.
No.
Right.
I mean, we start with that nuts and bolts, but now it's like, okay, take your phones. Let's go. I want you to shoot a really simple scene of two people talking, right? And they'll go and they'll do it wrong. Like, okay, what did we talk about? Let's look at this example again. Okay, so what do we need to do? Or let's check your storyboard. Did you shoot your storyboard? You didn't shoot your storyboard. Okay, let's try this again. Right, so we'll send them out again and they'll do it again. So, you know, just really simple stuff like that. But, you know, getting them to the idea that, you know, there's a way that a scene fits together. So that was honestly the biggest struggle. You know, high school is totally different because it's so complex. Like, it's really complex. You know, I tell the kids at the start, you know, like, you're getting into groups. Like, you've had groups in a math class for 5 minutes that were a total disaster, and there was 2 of you. Now, I want you to get in groups of 6 for 4 months.
Wow.
So think about that.
So is there a process for them getting in that group, or is it just random, or how do you do that?
It's different for every grade level.
Okay.
Well,
the ones that are going to be 6 for the ones that are going to be 6 for.
Well, that's the high school class.
Yeah. How do you pick? How do those 6 come to be that 6?
We kind of, what we do is, like, in my class with the writing, directing, producing crew, they usually will try and form their own groups. And then sometimes, you know, inevitably there might be 1 or 2 kids who don't have a home. So we'll try and form some groups. And that's, the solution is different every year. It's totally different every year. Like, this past year, I had 4 kids who just they were like really quiet and really shy and just didn't want to sort of step out. Yeah. And so I got them together. I think I gave them a really sweet pep talk. I'm not going to lie. I think it was really good. And, gave them the option to, like, let's try this. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, and holy smokes, they just started ticking. It was amazing. There was one girl, like, just quietest girl, but she was the producer, and the producer's the one who kind of organizes everything. And she was a monster. Like, holy smokes. It was amazing. Awesome. So she had them just, like, scheduled down to the last little detail. It was amazing. So they turned out a really nice film. The one thing I always tell my groups too is, like, when you make your groups, okay, first thing you do, put on your big girl britches or your big boy britches and be ready for me to come and say, so-and-so needs to join your group. Yeah. And I've never had a problem with that, because by the time they're in grade 10, they've done film studies twice. So they know
collaboration
collaboration. Yeah. So there's that. And then the other half of the team comes over from the digital media course. And so a lot of times we just I talk with my groups and let them kind of gestate for a week or 2. And we see sort of what their needs are. And the other teacher, he's got a really good bead on, a really, really good, you know, finger on the pulse of which kids are interested in what elements. Like, some kids are like, I just really want to do special effects, or I really want to do sound, or I really want to do camera. So we kind of try and match people up the best. And we do, you know, like, by the time they're in grade 12, I mean, those kids are hardcore. Because I mean, that's an option course in grade 12. Like, they often don't even need to take it. They're doing it because they really want to. So we tend to kind of build like a grade 12 kind of super group with kids who are really dedicated, and they kind of get to do, I guess you call it, like, their thesis film. And we just get, like, the grade 12s, once they've been in there, they just do, just amazing work.
Is it a prerequisite to take the other 2 film classes?
No, okay. It's not. It's not. They can come in the course at any time.
Oh, okay.
But at the same time, like, last year, I had a kid join the high school class, and she hadn't done any of the junior high stuff. And about 2 weeks in, she just kind of raised her hand, and she's like, Mr. Lawrence, yes, I have no idea what's going on. And so, because
and then you handed her a DVD of Jaws.
Yes, that's right.
You went back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
No, so that was like a wake up call, because that's the first time that it sort of happened to me, because before then I'd always had kids coming through. So Yeah. It is kind of weird because you have to there has to be this sort of onboarding for kids who come in somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I work with them a little more closely, but it's really collaborative. I mean, there's a lot of times where I'll come in and I'm like, okay, I want to show you this, and I've got a slideshow and I got this thing, and I got clips and I want to do that. And they're just like, can we just work on our films? I'm like, okay. And then I just throw everything out and they just start working on their movies. And I just, I do my little production meetings with them and, help them connect to resources. Like that's why I like that course so much. Is like, I'm not a teacher. I'm the executive producer.
Nice.
Right? So I go around and I just put out fires and I light fires where they're needed. And that's my job. And that's what I love the most. I mean, I do my computers classes and I like those too, but some days it's just like, this is a mouse. And it's not.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Or the life. Oh, if I could get paid extra money every time someone gestures to their monitor and tells me that their computer's not working.
Oh, yes.
That is not a computer.
No.
That is a monitor.
I had that conversation with my own children. Now they do it to just mock me. They call the ceiling the roof. They're like, oh, it's on the roof. I'm like, that's not the roof. That's the ceiling. I said, the roof is something else,
And your old guy street cred just goes right up. Right? It's like, oh.
Well,
Nice. How old are your kids?
10 and
10 and 14. Oh, okay.
10 and 14. And I am 51, as the kids say.
Ooh, 51. All right.
Yes. Yes. So I remember when the talkies came out. It was a big deal.
You go down to Nickelodeon with your favorite girl.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Oh man,
the talking pictures. So Shane, you said you have a film, like production, like at the end, like a
little festival.
A festival.
Yeah, we combined.
So I'm now flashing to both the Simpsons Film Festival and the Gilmore Girls Film Festival.
Boo earns. They're saying boo earns.
Hey, Bonnie won that one fair and square.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. It was a good film. So with my 8s and 9s, we combined them and we just we set up in the gym and invite people and, bring out the red carpet and like the velvet ropes and everything.
That's awesome.
And, we have a good time with it. And then the high school kids, we actually rent out a movie theater. So we have a couple there's a couple art house theaters in town. So, we go there and it's awesome because it's all it's like old school movie theater, like with a balcony and everything.
Yeah. Velvet and all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Everything. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Oh man. So, have any of your kids gone on to film school or to become filmmakers?
I think a couple of them have. Yeah, I think there was actually a couple of years ago. I got to touch base with a couple of them because they were looking at Vancouver Film School, which is one of the big schools in Canada. So, and I know that some of them have just kind of, they keep going on with just, a real appreciation for the arts, and some of them have made films on their own, and some of them are off in their churches doing work that way. So it looks different in a lot of different ways, right? So I haven't got anyone who's like, working in Hollywood just yet, but maybe that'll happen. Yeah. I guess the closest thing I have to that in terms of us is I had a student years ago. It was before film studies, but I was making films because I didn't have children and I had time for these kind of things. And so I employed her as a makeup artist on my first short film, her first short film. So I employed her as a makeup artist, and she is now the key makeup artist for the Batgirl series.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So she's
really
doing
cool.
So she Skyped into my class last year to talk about makeup and stuff with some of my students.
That's sweet.
That was really cool. Yeah. Because she's very knowledgeable.
So I have a couple questions now. Walk us through how you became a podcaster, and then we're going to get to any, stories that you tell when you're just sitting around and telling people crazy stuff that happened in your classroom. Or you can tell us crazy stuff that happened on the podcast. If you had some podcast where some teacher just came on and started, cussing you out and telling, or bashing, whatever, or something that, anyway.
I'm sorry. I became a podcaster by accident, honestly. Okay. I just
slipped and hit the record button.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I had my phone out one day. I fell over, and then I was like, "Ow!" The first podcast was just me swearing a bunch. It started because we were going to our school was making the transition to BYOD, and so we kept on we get together once a week, and we'd just be supposed to be talking about something else, but we'd always be talking about BYOD. And I said, hey, we should do a
Yod,
podcast.
as I call it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're supposed to, I said, let's do a podcast. And everyone's kind of like, yeah, sure. That's a good idea. But it kind of like in that way that you're like, we should do coffee sometime, but then you never actually do. So,
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I just happened to have all the gear needed for a podcast given to me. Like, this was before Anchor, really, or anything really simple.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I had a friend of mine, he moved back to Ireland, and so he was like, I got all the sound gear. Do you want? I'm like, okay, sure. And then another friend of mine is like, I have these microphones. I don't know why I have them because I don't use them. So here, you can have them. So like the one I'm using right now was given to me.
Nice.
And, so I had this stuff. I'm like, sweet, let's do it. So we started a podcast, and it was all about BYOD in the first year. And then I like doing it so much. I just said, well, I'm going to keep doing this. So changed the name to Ed and started doing it once a month, and then twice a month, and then, once a week. And here we are. So
Okay.
yeah, it's kind of by accident, but I love doing it. I mean, that's the bottom line. Is this is just fun.
It is so much fun. I talk to anyone who's like thinking about it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If you're listening and you go, I could do that. They're just a bunch of idiots just rambling into a microphone.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. It really is that simple.
That's right.
And I don't know about you. I talked to Tedisco about this a lot. So often we get done recording, and whether it's the guest leaves or the guest clicks off, and I just look at Tedisco and I go, oh my goodness, that was just so much fun. I mean, I just Tedisco, do I say that like almost all the time?
Yeah. And the number of recordings where we get off going, my face hurts. That's the goal, really.
It is. If my cheeks don't hurt, that is our goal. For our cheeks to hurt from smiling and laughing the whole time.
Yeah, well, I enjoy listening to you guys' show because it is. I love the style and just how casual it is, and you guys play off each other really nicely. So
thank you. That's we I don't know. We've that kind of happened by accident as well. Like, we kind of knew each other and knew a little bit about each other, but we didn't know it was going to be as much fun doing it with each other and then having guests.
Yeah, I figured you'd hate me by now, but. Turns out he keeps inviting me back on.
Well, like I said, I need someone to kind of rein me in. We didn't know which, like, when we first started, I said,
I'm the one reining someone in. We're in trouble.
I know. We didn't know that. And we were like, we knew we were on the silly scale, and we didn't know who was higher. But I think we've established that I'm slightly higher on this silly scale than you, Tedisco. Would you argue with that or not?
Yeah, I think you're higher in terms of silliness and whimsy. Yes.
Okay.
And I'm just higher in snark.
There you go.
I was just thinking, like, Tedisco, you're the color commentator.
There you go.
Thanks.
I guess so.
color.
I don't know.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't know what I am then. Okay, I'm the wacky neighbor. That's my goal. I think I'm gonna make that reference.
Boom, boom, boom.
People ask me, what do you want to, like, what did you want to be when you grew up? And I tell people all the time, and I'm going to prove my age again, I wanted to be Ralph Malph. Like, that was my goal.
I don't even know.
From Happy Days.
Successful.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. Tedisco, have I hit my goal?
Absolutely. Sit on it, Mealy.
I still got it! Oh. Little known Happy Days trivia. Ralph Malph's parents, Mickey Malph and Minnie Malph. Okay, I don't know if you know that or not. Mickey Malph was a dentist.
I did not know that.
Yes.
I did not know that, and I'm so upset.
Just seems a little lazy, doesn't it?
Yes.
In the naming department.
It is, but I mean, it's one of those, it was on the nose, but and sometimes you just go with it.
Yeah.
I mean, almost as good as, boy, I always make stupid references, but you guys watch, My Wife and Kids? You've watched My Wife and Kids with,
No.
The Wayans? So,
No.
I'll tell you this, don't relate at all to what we're talking about. So on the show, he had a son. His son's name was Junior. Okay? Junior goes to high school. Speaking of high school things,
Yeah.
Junior does a bad thing that you shouldn't do in high school, and Junior gets his girlfriend pregnant. Okay?
Oh, you should not do that.
No. So they have a baby, right? That's what happens after the pregnancy part. I don't know if you guys know.
So I hear, yes.
Yes. So he's like, he brings the baby to his dad. He goes, I named the baby after me. The baby's name is Junior Junior.
All right. Speaking of tangents that are completely unrelated to what we're talking about,
Yeah.
I remember I have smart friends who just have stupid moments, right? We all have those.
Yes.
I had a friend who, he was a really smart guy, but we were talking about films, and just film was not his thing. And so we were talking about, Wolfman and all the old Wolfman movies. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about, Lon Chaney and Lon Chaney Jr.
Yes.
And we said, we felt so bad for Lon Chaney Jr. He was so talented, and he just got typecast as the Wolfman because of his dad. And my friend goes, why? Who is Lon Chaney Jr.'s dad? And I couldn't find a way to answer it without being insulting.
Yes. That's
the problem with being consistently sarcastic. Yes. Everything I say kind of sounds mean.
Yes.
I like it. That's good.
So that was a fun tangent.
It is good. It is a good
sack of conversation.
Yes. So
back to
do you have a good funny story or just a oh my goodness, I can't believe this kid said this or did this moment from your 15
I got a couple.
Years? Okay, go for it. Hit us with something.
I really had to rack my brain, honestly, because I don't know. These things tend not to stick unless they're fairly extreme. But I'll tell you about a student, and we're going to call him
George.
So many years ago, I directed West Side Story at our school. We used to do, or we still do, these enormous musicals. I'm not involved with them anymore. So he was just kind of this. I don't know. He was a bit of he was a really nice kid. Like, you had him one-on-one. He had great conversations with him. Really intelligent, well-spoken. Not a fantastic student. But he would just constantly get himself into trouble just by doing stupid things. So I'll show you 3 examples with George, because we did this West Side Story thing. First thing we have to do, of course, is we have to audition. So we audition in the auditorium. Our school is actually attached to a church. So we had the use of this really nice big auditorium. It's great. So it's where you stage your plays. So they do these monologues and whatever else. And he gets up there doing his monologue, and he lights a cigar.
Nice.
And starts smoking the cigar.
Yeah.
In the church auditorium during his monologue.
That's bold.
Well, because I was co-teaching this program with another teacher, and we were looking at each other like, what? And this is like my 3rd year of teaching. I wouldn't say I was quite 100% confident in, like what to do in this kind of circumstance. Yeah. So she'd been around longer. I'm like, well, what do we do? She's like, we're shutting this down. So yeah, this is George. He was neat. And
bold.
Yes. He's bold. He's a neat guy.
What'd you get in trouble today? I lit a cigar in a church.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It was part of my audition. I don't know why they had a problem with it.
Yeah. Smoked it. Yeah.
So
in front of several teachers.
Yeah. He thought outside the box, this guy. He's actually a very talented musician now.
Did he get the part?
Yeah. He got a part. He wasn't like a lead or anything, but he was good. But so the other thing is he was like, we're trying to do like, the Jets in there, and he was kind of like, his character is kind of like scrungy and beat up a little bit. So he's got this sweater, and I'm like, it's kind of, I wonder if we could like sort of beat that up a little bit. He's like, Mr. Lawrence, I got it. I know what to do. So he comes back in later, and this sweater is just beat to crap. And like, it actually looked really good. I'm like, what did you do? He's like, oh, I just, I tied the end off, threw it full of rocks, and attached it to the end of my car and drove around the parking lot.
Nice.
Okay. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, it worked. Yes. It was really good. I was like, well, okay. So then I don't know, I must be an idiot, but like, okay, well, he seems to have a good head for, creative solutions, whatever else. And we had this chair, this orange kind of like old school, like, big lounge chair thing. I'm like, and we kind of need to beat it. I'm like, can you just, we need to get this beat up a little bit. And he's like, oh yeah, no worries, Mr. Lawrence. No
so he
problem.
filled it full of rocks and tied it to the back.
Or he lit a cigar and started putting it out on the chair. There's one of those two things, some combination of there. I'm hoping. Go ahead.
Amelia, you are very close. No, so I mean, I'm the director. Like, I'm running around, like, this here, that there. Okay, let's do this dance thing. I'm like giving orders, running all over the place, this big area. So I leave him with that. Come back a little later. He has lit the chair on fire.
Ooh, not good.
No.
The whole armrest is on fire.
When you light chairs and couches on fire, I know this from some safety course I had at some point, they burn forever. Like the fire gets in the foam rubber and they're not easy to put out.
Well,
they smolder,
I don't
right?
know. Yeah, it was one of those old, I don't even know what the fabric is, but it's kind of like, maybe like a nylon or something. It actually kind of melted, but it was like the armrest was on fire. I'm like, and it was inside. And it's like, nice. What are you doing?
One step away from the sprinklers going off.
Yeah, well, I mean, his idea was that it was like someone's putting a cigar out on the armrest, but I mean, this is after the cigar incident, so obviously he's not got his cigars with him anymore.
But he's still got his matches or lighter or whatever. He doesn't go anywhere without that.
No, apparently not. No, he's that kind of guy. So
always be prepared.
Always be prepared. Yeah, I mean, really nice kid. We had a good relationship, but man, there was days where I'm just like, I just want to shoot you into space, kid. When I was doing that musical, I mean, that was a whole other story, like I said, but I mean, basically I burned out on it, and I was doing 60 hours a week on the musical, plus my 40-hour a week, 40-hour week job. Yeah. So, I mean, it would have just been like, that's on fire. What are you doing? Turn it up. And then I would have just kept on going and doing something else. Like, that's probably what the scenario was. I just remember walking around the corner and just seeing this armrest.
Okay. I mean, most days I describe as just putting out fires all day, but
you're
literally putting out fires.
You kind of took the extra step and did it.
Yeah, that's right.
It is good. It is good. Well, that's awesome. Speaking of which, speaking of tangents, not really tangents, actually related. To Disco, was it the field trip episode where we got into Disco was a drama teacher in middle school, and so maybe we'll put a link to that or somehow get our listeners to listen to that.
Field trip episode, I think.
I think it was the field trip episode. I think it was as well.
Sure.
To Disco has some really good.
We don't listen.
I mean, someone's obviously knowing that one of our super fans has transcribed all of our stuff and created
Portuguese,
show art and everything, and done dioramas and claymation animation of all of our episodes. When they finally let us know that that's happening, we'll ask them which episode it was.
Says, I'm with George.
Yeah. It does. Yeah. It does. Okay. All right. So I think that's going to wrap this up. And boys and girls, just so you know, a little teaser. Me and Tedisco, we're going to be on, you call it the Ed Podcast or Ed Podcast?
We call it the Ed Podcast, or just Ed for short.
Okay, or just Ed. Okay. Yeah. We're gonna record an episode of that. So it'll be more juice for you guys. But, I think we're gonna wrap this one up.
Well, Shane, so if people want to find you out there on the internet, where should they go?
Easiest place is, I'm on Twitter. It's the Ed Podcast. And you can also go to theedpodcast.com. Those are probably the two obvious places. I'm on Instagram as well under the Ed Podcast. I just do a little bit there, but yeah, Twitter's my main home. So
okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it. And we'll provide all the links to that stuff will be in the show notes. Mm-hmm. And thank you, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and stay unprofessional.
Man, that was fun. Shane's a great guy. Please go out and support Shane. Go listen to the Ed Podcast. He just does some great stuff, and he's just a really pleasant person to talk to. We had a lot of fun, so we hope he'll be back on soon. And we are also going to be on an upcoming episode of the Ed Podcast. So if you're huge fans of us, go check us out there too. Take this moment. Click whatever positive indicator there is on whatever interface you're currently using for your podcast. Next week, Mealy and I are going to be sitting down all on our lonesome and discussing some of our favorite podcasts. So tune back in. Here's a little teaser for you.
I listen to podcasts about podcasts. Okay?
Meta.
So it's basically people who have been podcasting for a while telling you how to be a better podcaster and how to make your podcast popular, and
Can we make a podcast about how to make a podcast about how to make a better podcast?
Well, I actually was going to say, I was talking to my family about this. We could do a podcast where we discuss all the podcasts that talk about podcasts and which one of the podcasts about podcasts are good and bad. So that would be good.
I was hanging out with some friends one night, and one of them pitched this great idea. They said, I want to make a podcast where every episode we're just pitching a new podcast.
That's what this is. And it's already out there. That's the first on my list.
All right, that's all, folks. Stay unprofessional.